Our planet, a vibrant tapestry of life, is facing an unprecedented crisis. From the melting glaciers of the Arctic to the burning rainforests of the Amazon, the signs of environmental degradation are all around us. We are living in a time of climate change, pollution, and widespread destruction of natural habitats. The very systems that sustain life on Earth are under threat, and the consequences for humanity are dire. For decades, scientists have warned about the impact of human activities on the planet. We have pumped billions of tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, trapping heat and causing the planet to warm at an alarming rate. We have polluted our oceans with plastic waste, decimated fish populations, and acidified the water. We have cleared forests at an unprecedented scale, destroying habitats and driving countless species to the brink of extinction. The consequences of our actions are already being felt around the world. Extreme weather events such as hurricanes, droughts and wildfires are becoming more frequent and intense. Sea levels are rising, threatening coastal communities and infrastructure. Food security is at risk as agricultural yields decline due to changing weather patterns and soil degradation. The delicate balance of nature is being disrupted with potentially catastrophic consequences for all living things. The environmental challenges we face may seem overwhelming, but it is important to remember that we are not powerless to act. As inhabitants of this planet, we have a collective responsibility to protect and preserve the environment for current and future generations. We must acknowledge the role that human activities have played in creating these problems and take decisive action to address them. The good news is that solutions exist. We have the technology and the knowledge to transition to a more sustainable future. We can reduce our reliance on fossil fuels by investing in renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and geothermal. We can develop cleaner and more efficient transportation systems, promote sustainable agriculture practices, and reduce our consumption of resources. But technology alone is not enough. We also need a fundamental shift in our values and behaviors. We must move away from the throwaway culture that has become so prevalent in modern society and embrace a more circular economy that prioritizes reuse, repair, and recycling. We must learn to live in harmony with nature, recognizing that we are part of a complex and interconnected web of life. The time for complacency is over. We are at a critical juncture in human history, and the choices we make today will determine the fate of our planet. It is time for bold action, for innovation, and for a renewed commitment to environmental stewardship. We must demand that our leaders take the necessary steps to address climate change, reduce pollution, and protect our natural resources. But it is not just up to governments and corporations to solve these problems. Each and every one of us has a role to play. We can make sustainable choices in our daily lives, from the food we eat to the products we buy to the way we travel. We can reduce our carbon footprint, conserve water and energy, and support businesses that are committed to sustainability. We can also use our voices to raise awareness about environmental issues and advocate for change. We can educate ourselves and others about the challenges we face and inspire action in our communities. By working together, we can create a more sustainable and equitable future for all. Our planet has a natural system for regulating temperature. Certain gases in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, trap heat from the sun. This is a good thing. It keeps our planet warm enough to support life. Think of it like a blanket around the Earth. Without that blanket, the Earth would be a frozen, inhospitable place. But like with many things in life, balance is key. Over the past century, human activities have been releasing enormous amounts of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, far more than the planet can naturally absorb. The burning of fossil fuels for energy, deforestation, and industrial processes are the main culprits. This excess of greenhouse gases is like adding extra layers to the Earth's blanket, causing the planet to warm at an unnatural and dangerous rate. This warming effect is what we call climate change. It's not just about hotter summers. It's about disrupting the delicate balance of the Earth's climate system. The Earth's climate is incredibly complex, with interconnected systems of air, water, and land. Changes in temperature can lead to a cascade of effects impacting weather patterns, sea levels, and ecosystems around the world. Understanding the science of climate change is crucial. It allows us to see the clear link between human activities and the changes we are observing in our world. This knowledge empowers us to take responsibility and to find solutions to mitigate the impacts of this global challenge. The evidence of a warming world is overwhelming and undeniable. We see it in the rising global temperatures, the shrinking glaciers, and the increasingly frequent extreme weather events. These are not isolated incidents or natural fluctuations. They are part of a larger pattern of change driven by human activities. Across the globe, average temperatures have been steadily increasing, with the past few decades being the warmest in human history. Thermometers don't lie. We are witnessing hotter summers, milder winters, and earlier springs, all indicative of a changing climate. These shifts may seem subtle at first, but they have profound implications for the delicate balance of nature. The melting of glaciers and ice sheets, a direct consequence of rising temperatures, is another alarming sign. These frozen giants serve as vital freshwater sources for countless communities and play a critical role in regulating global sea levels. As they melt at an unprecedented rate, we face the dual threat of water scarcity and coastal inundation. The impacts of climate change are not just limited to rising temperatures and melting ice. They are also evident in the increasing frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Heat waves are becoming more severe and prolonged. Droughts are lasting longer, and wildfires are raging with greater ferocity. These extreme events have devastating consequences for human lives, property, and ecosystems around the world. The Earth's climate has changed throughout its long history, driven by natural factors such as volcanic eruptions, variations in solar radiation, and shifts in Earth's orbit. However, the rapid and dramatic changes we are witnessing today cannot be explained by natural causes alone. The fingerprint of human activity is undeniable. The evidence comes from multiple lines of scientific inquiry. Ice cores, which act as ancient time capsules, reveal that the current levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere are unprecedented in at least the last 800,000 years. The rate of increase in these gases coincides with the Industrial Revolution and the subsequent surge in fossil fuel consumption, clearly linking human activities to the observed changes. Scientists have developed sophisticated computer models that simulate the Earth's climate system, taking into account both natural and human factors. These models consistently show that the observed warming trend can only be explained by including the impact of human activities, particularly the emission of greenhouse gases. The scientific consensus on human-caused climate change is overwhelming. Major scientific organizations worldwide, representing the collective expertise of thousands of researchers, have concluded that human activities are the dominant cause of the observed warming since the mid-20th century. The evidence is clear, compelling, and demands our attention. Climate change impacts every corner of our planet, from melting ice caps to rising sea levels. Coastal communities face erosion and flooding, while island nations risk submersion. Water scarcity and changing precipitation patterns disrupt agriculture and increase conflict. Health impacts include heat stroke, respiratory issues, and vector-borne diseases. Mental health suffers as communities face extreme weather and displacement. Let's delve into the science behind global warming. Imagine Earth surrounded by a blanket of gases. This blanket traps the sun's heat, keeping our planet warm. This is the greenhouse effect. Without it, Earth would be a lifeless rock. Human activities disrupt this balance. Greenhouse gases trap more heat. Carbon dioxide, methane, and others intensify the effect. More heat is retained, warming the planet. Fossil fuels release vast amounts of greenhouse gases. Deforestation removes trees that absorb carbon dioxide. This intensifies the greenhouse effect, causing unnatural warming. Even a few degrees of warming have enormous consequences. It disrupts weather, melts ice, raises sea levels, and impacts ecosystems. Understanding the greenhouse effect is crucial to addressing global warming. One of the most visible and alarming consequences of global warming is the melting of ice caps and glaciers. These frozen giants are melting at an unprecedented rate, pouring vast quantities of fresh water into the oceans and contributing to rising sea levels. The Arctic is warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. Sea ice is shrinking dramatically, impacting wildlife and global weather patterns. The Greenland ice sheet is losing billions of tons of ice each year. Large sections of ice shelves are collapsing, accelerating the flow of glaciers into the sea. The melting of the West Antarctic ice sheet could raise global sea levels by several meters. Rising seas threaten to inundate low-lying island nations and displace millions of people. The encroaching waters pose a significant threat to human civilization and the natural world. Global warming isn't just about rising temperatures, it's about disrupting the delicate balance of nature. Ecosystems around the world, from coral reefs to rainforests to polar regions, are experiencing the effects of a changing climate, with profound implications for the species that depend on them. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, are highly sensitive to changes in water temperature. As the oceans warm, corals expel the symbiotic algae that live within their tissues, causing them to turn white and lose their primary source of food. This process, known as coral bleaching, can lead to the death of entire coral colonies, decimating these vital ecosystems that support a vast array of marine life. On land, forests are facing increasing stress from drought, heat waves, and wildfires. Trees essential for absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere are dying at alarming rates in some regions, releasing even more carbon dioxide into the air and exacerbating the cycle of climate change. These changes in forest ecosystems threaten biodiversity, disrupt water cycles, and reduce the planet's ability to regulate climate. Wildlife populations are also feeling the pressure. As temperatures rise and weather patterns become more erratic, many species are struggling to adapt. Some are shifting their ranges northward or to higher elevations in search of cooler temperatures, while others are facing shrinking habitats, reduced food sources, and increased competition from invasive species. The delicate web of life is being disrupted, with potential consequences for entire ecosystems. Climate change is a profoundly human issue, exacerbating inequalities and creating new challenges for vulnerable communities. Rising sea levels and extreme weather threaten lives and livelihoods. Coastal communities face displacement and increased risks. The human toll is immeasurable. Climate change impacts food security and water access. It is a social justice issue demanding our attention and action. Pollution is a pervasive threat to our planet's health, impacting air, water, and soil. It's a toxic cocktail we've created, affecting millions daily. Air pollution is a global problem, with smog and particulate matter posing significant health risks. Pollutants travel across continents, highlighting the interconnected nature of this challenge. Water pollution, from plastic waste to chemical runoff, threatens aquatic ecosystems and human health. Addressing this requires reducing plastic use and improving waste management. Deforestation is shrinking Earth's forests, impacting biodiversity and climate. Forest loss disrupts water cycles and threatens local communities. Biodiversity is under threat from habitat loss and climate change. The loss of species disrupts ecosystems and weakens their resilience. Environmental destruction sets off a chain reaction, impacting ecosystems globally. A holistic approach to environmental stewardship is essential. The future depends on our choices today. We have the knowledge and resources to create a sustainable future. The industrial age brought prosperity, but at a high environmental cost. Industrial activities release pollutants impacting air, water, and climate. Urbanization replaced natural landscapes with concrete, fragmenting habitats. Cities' growth pressures resources and disconnects us from nature. Intensive farming practices increased food production but harmed the environment. Sustainable agriculture is essential for our future. We have journeyed together through the environmental crisis facing our planet. We have witnessed the impacts of climate change and pollution. The consequences for ecosystems, wildlife, and human communities are devastating. But amidst these challenges, there is hope. We have the power to change course. The solutions are within our reach. We can transition to a clean energy economy. We can adopt sustainable agricultural practices. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle. We must recognize we are part of nature, embrace a long-term perspective for future generations. This is a challenge for all of us. Each of us has a role to play. Make conscious choices in our daily lives. Advocate for change. The time for action is now. Let us rise to the challenge together. Leave behind a legacy of stewardship. Let this be our greatest achievement. We stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in the history of our planet. The path we choose now will determine the fate of generations to come. Will we continue down a road paved with environmental degradation, or will we forge a new path, one that leads to a more sustainable and equitable future? The choice is ours, and the time for action is now. It is easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges we face. Climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss. These are complex, interconnected problems that demand urgent attention, but we must not succumb to despair, for within each of us lies the power to make a difference. Every action, no matter how small, ripples outward, creating a wave of change that can wash over our planet. We can choose to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, embracing clean energy sources that power our homes and our lives without jeopardizing the health of our planet. We can choose to support sustainable agricultural practices that nourish our bodies and our communities without depleting our soil or poisoning our water. We can choose to embrace a lifestyle that values conservation, that celebrates the interconnectedness of all living things. The future is not something that happens to us, it is something we create. Let us create a future where the air is clean, the water is pure, and the forests teem with life. Let us create a future where humanity and nature thrive in harmony, where future generations inherit a planet brimming with beauty, diversity, and wonder. Let us choose a future worthy of our children and grandchildren, a future worthy of the extraordinary planet we call home.